Disney's Moana, Chapter 23. Giant green peaks rose from the horizon as though Moana had summoned them just by picturing them. Hei turned from his place at the bow to squawk at Moana. "Yes, that's Motunui," Moana told him, feeling a thrill of pride. Using everything Maui had taught her, she'd done it. She'd followed the stars, listened to the winds, watched the clouds, and felt the waves to find her way home. As she piloted through the gap in the reef, leaving behind the deeper waters for the lagoon, she heard the trumpet of a conch shell from shore. Her heart thrummed nervously, but she held her back straight and tugged on the sail line to tack into the inlet. Clustered on the beach, the people stared in shock as Moana guided her canoe right up to the edge of the village. Moana splashed over the side and waded ashore, anchoring her boat in the shallows, then turned to face the villagers. Moana's mother rushed forward and swept her into a tight embrace, Chief Tui close behind her, a parade of emotions flickering in his eyes: relief, love, regret, and pride. As Sina stepped back, Tui took her place, crushing Moana with a powerful hug, spinning her like he had when she was a little girl. In this gesture, Moana could feel that her father was accepting her for who she was and was proud of what she had done. As he set her down, she wiped a tear from his cheek. She had missed him, too, and couldn't wait to tell him of all her adventures. Snort, snort. Hooves paused at Moana's legs. "Pooh!" Moana exclaimed, stooping down to give the pig a hug. Pooh lunged up, licking her face excitedly. "Whoa, snout in the mouth!" Moana laughed, wiping her lips. "Whee!" Several kids squealed happily as they ran down to the water. Splashing and laughing, they clambered aboard Moana's canoe and began playing with the oar and drum. One stood at the bow of the boat, arm extended, pretending to lead the way. From under the shade of a coconut tree, Moana stood with her mother and watched as her father waded into the water as well and circled the canoe, both impressed and pensive as he studied the boat. Coming to join them, he nodded in pride. "You have done well, Moana," he said, draping an arm around her shoulders. Pleased, Moana leaned against him, but she straightened as a mighty gust blew her hair around her face. The wind had changed. It was flowing east. Moana's father's eyes followed as her gaze swept across the inlet to where the sky touched the sea in a bold line. Then they both looked toward the cavern of ancient boats. Without words, he knew what her heart was yearning for, and he gave her a little squeeze of assent. Slowly, slowly, nice and easy, Moana coached as the row of villagers heaved on the rope, pulling the double-hulled canoe out into the sun. Several more boats lined the beach, carpenters already hard at work repairing the hulls, their hammer beats echoed by bangs from the village as another crew flattened cloth for a new sail. Kids raced up and down the beach, fetching ropes and tools, while Moana's mother led several women in the harvesting and packing of food. Out on the lagoon, Tui was giving sailing lessons. With a soft swish, the double-hulled canoe slid across the sand to take its place in the line. In a well-practiced dance, the villagers anchored it and began sanding it down. Convinced that the boats were in good hands, Moana stepped back. It had been impressive how quickly everyone had embraced the idea of restoring the canoes and sailing east to find new islands. Perhaps I was not the only one in the village with an itch to explore, she thought with a smile. The waves lapped around her ankles and something firm knocked into her. Looking down, Moana laughed in delight. It was a conch shell, the very same shell the ocean had offered her when she was a toddler. Moana picked it up, the smooth, warm curve of it familiar in her hands. She knew exactly what to do with it. From the summit of Motunui, the canoes looked like toys poised on the edge of the sea, the island itself a giant boat floating in the midst of the vast ocean. Wind whipped through Moana's hair as she rounded the corner and stopped before the pillar of rocks. This was where her ancestors, all the chiefs before her, had come to honor the island and their people, raising them higher to the sky. Each one had left a stone to represent who he was, both as a leader and for himself. And now it was Moana's turn. Carefully, Moana balanced her choice on the top of the pile. Above, a ray of sunlight pierced through the clouds and danced over the spikes of the conch shell, the pearly coral surface gleaming against the blue sky. White-capped waves splashed under Moana, lifting her canoe as it cut through the water. Above, the sailcloth flapped, then snapped tight, capturing the wind. Wild with excitement to be back on the water, Moana leaned over the edge, feeling the breeze tug at her. In the bow, Pooh had his snout raised to the sky, and Hei had assumed his usual perch on the masthead. Moana glanced to the side, her gaze taking in her parents on a boat of their own, some of the other villagers standing on board of fleets of boats, their decks brimming with supplies, the people basking in the sun. They were excited to go exploring, to see what lay beyond the reef. Looking ahead, Moana saw the outline of a giant manta ray gliding before her canoe, and she touched Gramatala's necklace, still clasped around her neck. Screeah! A massive hawk dove out of the sky, slicing the water in front of her canoe. Grinning at the sight of Maui, Moana tugged on the main line and rode the wake from the demigod's claws. Wind whipped her hair back and she lifted her face to the sky. Together, her people were reclaiming their place as voyagers, with Moana to lead them. She felt no fear as they sailed into the unknown. She knew where she came from. She knew who she was, and she was ready. The ocean was her home, the waves and winds her friends, the sun and stars her guiding lights.